I watch through my car window as they string up gaudy decorations across my front porch, and I can't help but smile at the irony. The banner reads, "Freedom at last," in garish red letters. They have no idea. My name is Leah, and in exactly 47 minutes I'm going to destroy my husband's family. Are you sure about this? Peyton's voice crackles through my phone speaker. She's been my best friend since college, the only one who knows the full truth. Once you do this, there's no going back. They're throwing a divorce party in my house that they think belongs to them. I watch Karen, my soon-to-be ex-mother-in-law, directing caterers like a 4-star general. They've had this coming for 12 years? My phone buzzes with a text from Xander, my lawyer. New owners ready, documents signed, green light whenever you're ready. I take a deep breath, remembering the first time Karen called me a gold digger. It was at my own wedding reception, whispered just loud enough for me to hear as I passed by. At least Bodhi got a pretty one, she'd said to Sloane, her daughter, though God knows what else she brings to the table. If they'd only known then that I'd inherited this house, along with a substantial trust fund, from my grandmother. But I'd kept quiet, hoping to keep the peace, hoping they'd accept me eventually. What a joke that turned out to be. A sleek BMW pulls up to the curb, and Bodhi steps out, looking exactly like what he is, a man who's lived his entire life on other people's money. My money for the past decade, though he never knew it. He straightens his designer jacket and heads toward the house, not even glancing in my direction. "Showtime," I murmur to Peyton. "Meet you inside in 20? "I'll bring popcorn," she says, only half joking. I watch as more guests arrive, all friends of the Stouts, all people who've smiled to my face while whispering behind my back. Through the large bay windows, I can see Karen holding court in the living room, probably sharing her version of why her precious son had to divorce his gold-digging wife. My phone buzzes again. This time it's Tamara, my aunt. "Remember, sweetheart, you don't have to go through with this. We can just serve them papers quietly." But I think about the nights I cried myself to sleep while Bodhi sided with his mother, about the accidental coffee spills on my work designs, about Karen and Sloane's constant hints about my unfortunate inability to have children. "I need to do this," I text back. They need to know exactly who they've been messing with. Through the window, I see Karen raising a champagne glass. Even from here, I can read her lips as she starts her speech. To my son's new beginning. The guests cheer, and my resolve hardens. I check my watch. 30 minutes until Xander arrives with the papers. I step out of my car, smoothing down my black dress. It's designer, Chanel, but not obviously so. Karen will hate that she can't quite place it, can't quite calculate its worth. As I approach the house, Raphael, Bodhi's cousin, spots me first. His eyes widen. Aunt Karen," he calls out. "We have a situation." The party goes quiet as I push open the front door. Karen's face transforms from shock to fury to a sickly, sweet smile in the span of a second. "Leah, dear," she says, voice dripping with false concern. "I don't think you were invited to this celebration." I smile, channeling 12 years of patience into this moment. "Actually, Karen, I was just making sure you're enjoying my house. The acoustics in here are fantastic, aren't they? Perfect for parties. She starts, then laughs nervously. "I think the divorce has confused you, dear. This is the Stout family home." "Is it?" I pull out my phone, checking the time. That's interesting, because in about 20 minutes my lawyer will be here with some paperwork that says differently. And the new owners, of course. The champagne glass slips from Karen's hand, shattering on the hardwood floors I'd had installed 3 years ago. The sound echoes through the sudden silence, and I feel 12 years of suppressed satisfaction bubble up inside me. "What new owners?" Bodhi steps forward, face pale. "What are you talking about?" I lean against the doorframe, my doorframe, and smile. "Why don't we wait for everyone to arrive? I'd hate to have to tell this story twice." The clock on the wall ticks loudly in the silence. 20 minutes. After 12 years of playing the quiet, submissive daughter-in-law, 20 minutes feels like nothing at all. Let the party begin. The tension in the room is thick enough to cut with a knife as I think back to how this all started. 12 years ago, I was young and stupidly in love with Bodhi, believing his charming smile and promises of forever. We could live with Mom for a while, he'd suggested early in our marriage. Save some money. I remember Peyton's reaction when I told her my plan. We were having coffee at our usual spot, and she nearly choked on her latte. You're going to let them move into your house and pretend it's theirs? She'd stared at me like I'd lost my mind. Leah, that's insane. It's just temporary, I'd assured her. Besides, Bodhi says his mum's having financial troubles. The market crashed and her business is struggling. And you believe that? I hadn't answered, because deep down I already knew. Karen's struggling business somehow afforded her weekly spa treatments and designer handbags. Now, standing in my living room surrounded by hostile faces, I catch snippets of whispered conversations. Can she even afford a lawyer? Sloane stage whispers to her mother. I thought Bodhi froze their joint accounts. Karen pats her daughter's arm. Don't worry, dear, she's bluffing. I slip away from the growing crowd and head upstairs, ostensibly to use the bathroom. Instead, I find myself in what used to be my home office, before Karen suggested converting it into a guest room. Opening the closet, I run my fingers along the wall until I find it. A small envelope tucked behind the baseboards. What are you doing up here? I spin around to find Raphael in the doorway, his expression uncertain. Just reminiscing, I say, sliding the envelope into my purse. Lots of memories in this house. Leah. He steps closer, lowering his voice. Whatever you're planning, please think about what this will do to the family. I laugh, and it sounds bitter even to my own ears. The family? You mean the same family that's celebrating my divorce downstairs? You know how Aunt Karen gets. She's just protective of Bodhi. Protective? I move past him to the hallway. Is that what you call it when she convinced him I was cheating last year? Raphael has the grace to look ashamed. She thought she saw you with someone. My Aunt Tamara, the only real family I have left. I pause at the top of the stairs. But none of you bothered to ask, did you? Downstairs, I hear Bodhi's voice rising in anger. What do you mean? You've been handling her legal matters for years. Xander must have arrived early. Perfect timing. I descend the stairs to find my lawyer standing calmly in the foyer, his briefcase a shield between him and my agitated ex-husband. Ah, Leah, Xander says smoothly. Shall we begin? Begin what? Karen demands, pushing forward. This is a private party and you're both trespassing. Actually, comes a new voice from the doorway. I believe they have every right to be here. Tamara steps into the house, her elegant presence commanding immediate attention. Behind her, Peyton slips in with a barely concealed smirk. Who are you? Karen snaps. I'm the new owner, Tamara says simply. Well, as of... She checks her watch. 15 minutes ago. The colour drains from Karen's face. That's impossible. This house has been in the Stout family for 3 generations, I interrupt. That's funny, because I have documentation showing my grandmother purchased it 25 years ago. Would you like to see the paperwork? Sloane pushes through the crowd. You're lying. Daddy would never have... Sold it? I finish for her. You're right, he didn't. Because it was never his to sell. Xander opens his briefcase, removing a thick folder. I have copies for everyone interested in the property's history, including the transfer of ownership to Leah upon her grandmother's passing 12 years ago. 12 years? Bodhi's voice cracks. But that means, when we moved in, when you suggested we live with your mother to save money? I turn to face him. Yes, Bodhi, you moved your entire family into my house, and I let you, because I thought maybe if I was accommodating enough, generous enough, your family would finally accept me. The room erupts in chaos. Through it all, I hear Karen's shrill voice. She's lying. She has to be lying. But I'm not done. Not even close. Because I just heard something through the open window that makes this moment even sweeter. The sound of moving trucks pulling up outside. Oh, I say, raising my voice above the din. Did I mention the new owners want to take possession immediately? Tamara isn't a fan of waiting. The look of pure horror on Karen's face makes 12 years of patience worth every second. The moving crew files in with practiced efficiency, their presence adding a surreal quality to the chaos. Karen clutches her champagne glass like a weapon, while Sloane frantically dials someone on her phone, probably their family lawyer. "You can't do this," Bodhi says, his voice trembling. "We have rights as tenants." Xander steps forward, pulling another document from his briefcase. "Actually, you don't. You've never paid rent, never signed a lease, and there's no formal agreement. Legally, you're guests who've overstayed their welcome." I slip away from the commotion, walking through rooms that hold more bitter memories than sweet ones. In the kitchen, I find the drawer where Karen keeps her precious family photos. Right on top is the wedding portrait she had professionally done, just Bodhi and his family. I was conveniently excluded. Looking for something specific? I turn to find Sloane in the doorway, her perfectly manicured hands gripping the frame. "Just remembering," I say, closing the drawer. "Like that time you told everyone at Christmas dinner that I'd tried to seduce your husband." She flushes. "That was a misunderstanding?" I pull out my phone, playing a recording. Her voice fills the kitchen. "Just tell everyone she came onto you, Jack. Mum wants her gone, and this could be our chance." Sloane's face goes white. "You recorded me?" "I recorded everything." I move past her toward the study. "After the third time your mother accidentally ruined my client presentations, I learned to keep receipts. The study door is locked, but I still have my key. Inside, Karen's prized antique desk dominates the room. This is where she held her weekly family meetings I was never invited to attend. As I'm opening drawers, Peyton appears in the doorway. "The movers want to know which furniture stays and which goes." "Everything with a blue sticker is mine," I say, finally finding what I'm looking for, a thick manila envelope hidden in the false bottom of the top drawer. "The rest belongs to the Stouts. They have 24 hours to remove it." 24 hours? Karen's voice screeches from behind Peyton. "You can't just throw us out on the street, like you tried to do to me last month." I turn, holding up the envelope. "When you forged my signature on divorce papers and tried to force me out before the proceedings were final." Karen's face goes from red to purple. "Those papers were perfectly legal." "They were fraudulent," Xander says, appearing beside her. "And we have proof. Would you like to discuss potential criminal charges now, or should we handle that separately?" From downstairs comes the sound of breaking glass, followed by shouting. We rush to the landing to find Bodhi facing off with one of the movers, a shattered vase between them. "That's a family heirloom," he yells. "You can't just—" "It's my grandmother's Waterford," I interrupt. "The one Karen claimed was a Stout family piece, when she allocated it to her room." The party guests are starting to leave, slipping out with embarrassed murmurs and averted eyes. Only Raphael remains, looking lost among the moving boxes. "I found this," he says quietly, holding out a photo album. "It's from your first year here." I take it, flipping through pages of happier times. Before Karen convinced Bodhi I was beneath their social standing. Before Sloane started her whisper campaign about my suspicious inability to conceive. "I should have said something," Raphael continues. "When they started, when I knew they were systematically trying to destroy my marriage and self-worth." I close the album. "Yes, you should have." A loud crash from upstairs makes everyone jump. We rush up to find Sloane in my old office, frantically searching through drawers. "Looking for this?" I hold up the envelope from earlier. "Your mother's letter to Bodhi? The one where she outlines her entire plan to save him from his unfortunate marriage by introducing him to her friend's daughter." Sloane freezes. Bodhi steps forward. "What letter?" "The one explaining how I was just a placeholder until someone more suitable came along." I hand him the envelope, dated 3 months after our wedding. He opens it with shaking hands, his face growing paler as he reads. Karen appears in the doorway, for once speechless. "The movers will work around you," I say, turning to leave. "But everything needs to be out by this time tomorrow. Anything left behind will be considered abandoned property." "Leah," Bodhi calls after me, his voice breaking. "I didn't know about the letter, about any of it." I pause at the top of the stairs, thinking of all the times he chose not to know, chose not to see. "That's the problem, Bodhi. You never wanted to know." The sound of the movers continues below, dismantling the carefully constructed facade of the past 12 years. And for the first time since this all began, I feel something unexpected. Not satisfaction, not even anger. I feel free. The next few hours pass in a blur of moving boxes and shattered illusions. I sit on the front porch swing, the one Bodhi claimed his grandfather built, but I have the receipt from the craftsman who actually made it, watching the Stout's world implode. "We need to talk about the shop," Xander says, settling beside me with a manila folder. "Not yet," I reply, watching Karen direct the movers with increasingly desperate commands. "Let them process this first. Time isn't on our side here," he insists. "The mortgage." "What mortgage?" Sloane appears, her mascara smeared. "What are you talking about?" I share a look with Xander before standing. Maybe we should discuss this inside. The living room is half empty now, moving boxes stacked where family photos once hung. Karen is there, clutching a crystal decanter like it might save her. "The boutique," I say simply. "Your mother's pride and joy." Karen's grip on the decanter tightens. "What about my shop? Remember 3 years ago when you needed an emergency loan?" I pull out my phone, scrolling through emails. "The bank required a co-signer?" The colour drains from her face. "You wouldn't." "I already have." I nod to Xander, who produces more paperwork. "When you forged my signature on those divorce papers, you violated the terms of the loan agreement. The bank is calling it in." "But that's impossible!" Karen's voice rises to a shriek. "I never asked you to co-sign anything." "No," Bodhi says quietly from the doorway. "You asked me, and I forged Leah's signature because you said it was just a formality, that you'd have the money in a month." The decanter slips from Karen's hands, joining the growing collection of broken crystal on the floor. "Bodhi," she whispers, "how could you? How could I?" He laughs, harsh and hollow. "I've been doing things like that for years, Mother. Covering your spending, hiding your schemes. I just never thought..." He looks at me. "I never thought it would cost me everything." Peyton appears with fresh coffee, handing me a cup. "The movers found something interesting in the attic," she says. "Looks like financial records." "Those are private." Karen lunges for the box Peyton indicates, but Xander steps in smoothly. "Actually, as co-signer on the business loan, Leah has every right to review these documents." I flip through the files, each page revealing new layers of deception. "You've been embezzling from your own business," I say, looking up at Karen. "Using my credit as guarantee for loans you never intended to repay." "It wasn't like that," she protests weakly. "Then what was it like?" I spread the papers on the half-packed dining room table. "Because it looks like you've been running a Ponzi scheme with your investors' money. Does the name Margaret ring a bell? The widow you convinced to put her life savings into your expansion project?" Sloane sinks into a chair, her perfect facade crumbling. "Mother, you promised that money went to the new location." "It did," Karen insists. "Most of it, anyway. The rest was just borrowed." "For what?" Bodhi demands. "The country club membership? The spa weekends? The designer wardrobe you said came from your business profits?" A heavy silence falls, broken only by the sound of movers in other rooms. "I can still fix this," Karen says, but her voice has lost its usual authority. "I just need time." "Time's up," Xander interrupts. "The bank is auditing the books first thing Monday morning." Raphael, who's been quietly watching from the corner, finally speaks. "What happens now?" "Now," I say, gathering the documents. "You all have 18 hours to remove your belongings from my house. After that, Karen needs to contact her own lawyer about the fraud charges she's facing." "You're bluffing," Sloane says, but there's no conviction in her voice. "Am I?" I hand her a copy of the loan documents. "Check the signature dates against your mother's bank records. Everything you need to know is right there." "You'll destroy this family," Karen whispers. "No, Karen, you did that yourself. I'm just making sure everyone knows the truth." Bodhi steps forward, his face ashen. "Leah, please, whatever Mum did, whatever I did, there has to be another way." For a moment, looking at him, I feel a flicker of the love we once shared. But then I remember all the times he stood silent while his family tore me down, all the lies he helped maintain. "There was another way," I say quietly. "For 12 years, there were other ways. You all just chose not to take them. The grandfather clock, my grandfather clock, chimes in the hall, marking another hour gone. Outside, the moving trucks continue their work, dismantling the careful illusion the Stouts built their lives around. And in the growing shadows of evening, I watch as karma finally comes to collect its due. Night falls, but nobody sleeps. The movers have gone, leaving behind half-empty rooms and shattered pretenses. Karen paces the kitchen, making frantic phone calls to lawyers who won't answer at this hour. Sloane sits on the stairs, scrolling through her phone, probably searching for some legal loophole to save them. Your mother's investment group is already responding, Peyton says, showing me her tablet. Someone leaked the audit news. That wasn't me, I say, though I know exactly who did. Margaret, the widow Karen swindled, has friends on the board. Bodie emerges from his study, holding a stack of papers. I found more, he says, voice hollow. Mum's been forging documents for years, not just the loan stuff. I know. I take the papers, adding them to Xander's growing file. She forged my signature on insurance policies, investment accounts, even tried to refinance the house last year. Why didn't you say something sooner? Would you have believed me? He doesn't answer, which is an answer in itself. A crash from upstairs makes us all jump. We rush up to find Karen in my old office, frantically shredding documents. That's enough, Xander says sharply, unplugging the shredder. Those are evidence. Evidence of what? Karen's voice is shrill. A daughter-in-law's vindictive lies. I built this family's reputation. I protected us from people like her. People like me. I step forward. You mean people who actually earned their money, who didn't have to steal from grieving widows to maintain their lifestyle? I did not steal. Margaret sends her regards, I cut in. She's very interested in the audit. So are the other investors. Karen lunges for the papers, but Xander is faster. Mrs. Stout, I strongly advise you to stop. You're only making things worse. Worse? She laughs, high and brittle. My son's gold-digging wife just destroyed everything we've built, and you think it can get worse? Actually, it can. I pull out my phone, showing her the screen. Your investors are calling an emergency meeting tomorrow. They've seen the preliminary numbers. The fight drains from her face. How? Did I mention Margaret's daughter works for the SEC? Sloane appears in the doorway, her own phone clutched tight. Mother, the country club just called. They're suspending our membership pending investigation. The business accounts are frozen too, Bodie adds quietly. I just checked. Karen sinks into the desk chair, my desk chair, her carefully maintained facade crumbling. You don't understand, she whispers. After Bodie's father left, I had to maintain appearances. I had to protect our social standing. By stealing, I ask? By destroying anyone who threatened your perfect image? I did what I had to do, including trying to break up my marriage, making me believe I wasn't good enough for your son. You weren't. She stands again, mask slipping completely. You were nothing. A nobody who got lucky with an inheritance. I had to protect Bodie from... From what? Bodie interrupts. From someone who actually loved me? Who put up with years of abuse because she thought I was worth it? The silence that follows is deafening. The police will be here in the morning, Xander says into the quiet. I suggest you use this time to pack and contact your lawyer. Police? Sloane's voice shakes. But we're the victims here. She tricked us. No. Raphael speaks up from the hallway. We tricked ourselves. We saw what Aunt Karen was doing to Leah for years. We just didn't want to admit it. Karen turns to Bodie, reaching for him. Darling, you can't let this happen. Everything I did for you. But Bodie steps back. No, Mother. You did it for yourself, and now we're all paying for it. Dawn is breaking when Tamara arrives with coffee and pastries. She surveys the chaos with calm eyes. The moving company will return at 9, she says. Everything needs to be out by then. You can't just throw us out, Sloane protests weakly. Actually, we can. Tamara's voice is steel wrapped in silk. And given what we've discovered about your mother's financial dealings, I'd focus less on where you're going and more on finding good criminal defense lawyers. I watch as reality finally settles over the Stouts. Their carefully constructed world of privilege and pretense is collapsing, and there's nothing they can do to stop it. Leah. Bodhi tries one last time. Please, we can work something out. But I think of 12 years of subtle cruelty, of calculated humiliation, of a family that saw me as nothing but a threat to their precious status. No, I say quietly. We really can't. The sun rises over my house, truly mine now, as the Stouts begin their exodus, leaving behind broken crystal, shattered illusions, and the weight of 12 years of lies. The morning brings chaos spilling onto the front lawn. Neighbours peek through curtains as the Stouts' carefully curated life is dismantled piece by piece. Karen stands by her Mercedes, barking orders at the movers while simultaneously arguing with someone on her phone. The investors want an emergency meeting today, Xander tells me, watching the scene unfold. They're not waiting until Monday. A sleek black SUV pulls up, and Margaret steps out, the widow Karen swindled. She's elegant in her 60s, radiating quiet fury as she approaches. "Karen," she calls out, "I believe we need to talk." Karen spins around, phone dropping from her hand. "Margaret, I can explain everything." "Explain what? How you used my husband's death benefits to fund your daughter's wedding, or how you forged my signature on those investment documents." Sloane freezes halfway down the front steps, clutching a box of designer shoes. "You did what?" "It wasn't like that," Karen stammers. "The money was invested." "In your personal accounts?" Margaret finishes. "My daughter traced every transfer. Would you like to see the records?" More cars are arriving now. Other investors, board members, people Karen has been deceiving for years. The quiet suburban street transforms into a stage for public humiliation. "This is all your fault!" Karen whirls on me, mascara streaking down her face. "You vindictive little—" "That's enough." Bodhi steps between us, surprising everyone. "Stop blaming Leah for your crimes, Mother." "Crimes?" Karen laughs hysterically. "I was protecting our family, our reputation." "By stealing from your friends?" Margaret asks quietly. "By destroying your son's marriage?" "She was never good enough for him. She had more money than all of us," Bodhi interrupts, "and never once lorded it over anyone. Unlike you, Mother." Sloane drops her box, shoes scattering across the lawn. "What do you mean, more money?" "The trust fund," Raphael says, emerging from the house. "I found the paperwork in Karen's study. Leah's grandmother left her millions, not just the house. She could have bought and sold us 10 times over." The revelation sends ripples through the gathering crowd. Karen sways on her feet, reaching for her car to steady herself. "That's impossible," she whispers. I checked. Under the wrong name," I say. "My grandmother's marriage name, not her family name. You were so convinced I was a gold digger, you never bothered to look deeper." A police cruiser pulls up, followed by 2 serious-looking men in suits. "Mrs. Stout," one calls out. "I'm Detective Morris. We need to ask you some questions about certain financial irregularities." "You can't prove anything," Karen says, but her voice trembles. "Actually," Margaret steps forward, "we can prove everything. Your son's been quite helpful this morning, turning over documents." All eyes turn to Bodhi, who stands pale but resolute. "I'm done covering up your lies, Mother. I'm done losing everything that matters because of your schemes." "Bodhi!" Karen reaches for him, but he steps back. "I'm your mother, and I'm your son, not your accomplice. Not anymore." The detective moves forward with handcuffs as Karen's carefully constructed world crumbles completely. Sloane bursts into tears, mascara joining her mother's in black streaks. "What about the shop?" she sobs. "Our accounts? Our reputation?" "All frozen," Xander says clinically. "Pending investigation." As Karen is led to the police car, she makes one last desperate play. "I'll tell everyone," she shrieks, "about how you trapped my son, how you manipulated us all." I step forward, voice carrying across the lawn. "Tell them what, Karen? That I let you live in my house for 12 years? That I covered your bounce checks? That I kept quiet while you stole from your friends and tried to destroy my marriage?" The gathered crowd murmurs, and I see realization dawn in their eyes. These people, Karen's precious social circle, are finally seeing the truth. The country club will hear about this. It's her last desperate shot. "They already have," Margaret says coldly. The board met this morning. Your membership is permanently revoked. As the police car pulls away, Bodhi turns to me. I know it doesn't make up for anything, but I'm sorry. For everything. You're right, I say quietly. It doesn't make up for anything. The movers continue their work as the crowd slowly disperses. Sloane sits on the front steps, surrounded by scattered designer shoes, looking lost. Raphael helps the movers in silence, while Bodhi stands in the driveway, watching his family's reputation dissolve in the morning sun. Peyton appears at my side. You okay? I watch as 12 years of lies and manipulation finally face the light of day. I don't know, I answer honestly, but I think I will be. The morning wears on, and with each box removed, each piece of furniture loaded into trucks, I feel the weight of the past growing lighter. But as I catch Bodhi's broken expression, I realize that victory doesn't always taste as sweet as we expect. By late afternoon, the house is almost empty. Bodhi finds me in the kitchen, where I'm watching the last of Karen's precious crystal being packed away. Can we talk? He asks, looking more dishevelled than I've ever seen him. Please, I nod, following him to the back porch, the same porch where he proposed 12 years ago. The swing still creaks the same way. I found this, he says, pulling out a worn envelope. It's from our first anniversary. Inside is a card I'd written him, full of hope and promises. Before Karen's manipulation took root, before everything soured. I was happy then, he says quietly. We were happy. Until your mother convinced you I wasn't good enough. I should have stood up to her. He runs a hand through his hair. Should have seen what she was doing to you, to us. A commotion from the front yard interrupts us. Sloane's voice rises in hysteria. What do you mean my cards are declined? We round the house to find her arguing with the moving company supervisor. Listen, lady, he says, we need payment now, or these trucks aren't moving. This is ridiculous. Sloane pulls out another credit card. Try this one. All your accounts are frozen, Xander reminds her, appearing with another stack of documents. That includes credit cards. Then how are we supposed to move our things? She demands. They're not all your things, I say quietly. The artwork in the dining room? Those are my grandmother's pieces. The antique desk Karen claimed was a family heirloom? I have the purchase receipt. Sloane's face crumples. Where are we supposed to go? Raphael offered to help, Bodhi tells her. He has space in his guest house. A guest house? She laughs bitterly. We had a mansion this morning. No, I correct her. You had my house this morning. There's a difference. Peyton approaches with her tablet. You might want to see this. The local news website is already running the story. Prominent socialite arrested for investment fraud? Below are photos of Karen being led to the police car, along with details about the scheme she'd been running through her boutique. Mother's going to jail, isn't she? Sloane whispers. The evidence is pretty clear, Xander says. The SEC doesn't mess around with fraud cases. Bodhi sinks onto the front steps. All those times she said she needed my signature for business expenses. I knew something wasn't right. I just didn't want to see it. None of us did, Raphael adds, carrying out another box. We all bought into Aunt Karen's perfect world. Speak for yourself, Peyton mutters. The moving supervisor clears his throat. About the payment. I pull out my credit card. I'll cover it. Leah, no, Bodhi protests. You don't have to. Actually, I do. I hand over my card. Because, unlike your mother, I know the difference between revenge and cruelty. As the movers resume their work, Tamara arrives with her interior designer. They walk through the house, discussing renovations, while the Stouts watch their life being packed into trucks. I found this, Raphael says, holding out a photo album. It's from before. Everything. The photos show happier times, holidays, dinners, moments when the facade of family felt real, before Karen's machinations poisoned everything. Keep it, I tell him. Someone should remember the good parts. Sloane approaches hesitantly. I'm sorry. About the infertility rumours. About everything. Are you sorry it happened or sorry you got caught? She doesn't answer, which tells me everything I need to know. The sun is setting when the last truck is loaded. Bodhi stands in the driveway, keys in hand. I really loved you, he says softly, before I let Mum convince me that status mattered more than happiness. I know, I reply. That's what makes it all worse. He nods, understanding finally reflecting in his eyes. For what it's worth, you were always too good for us, not the other way around. As the trucks pull away, carrying the remnants of the Stout's carefully constructed life, I feel no triumph, just a quiet certainty that karma, when it comes, doesn't always bring satisfaction. Sometimes it just brings truth. Peyton touches my arm. You okay? Ask me tomorrow, I say, watching Bodhi's car disappear around the corner. Inside, the house feels different, emptier, but somehow lighter. The weight of 12 years of lies and pretense is gone, leaving only echoes and possibilities. Tamara finds me in the kitchen, where Karen's crystal cabinet stands empty. Ready to make this place yours again? I look around at the space that was mine all along, thinking of all the changes to come. Yes, I say finally. I think I am. But as night falls and silence settles over the empty rooms, I wonder if winning feels this hollow for everyone, or if some victories are meant to taste like goodbye. The morning newspaper lands on my doorstep with a dull thud. The headline reads, "Local boutique owner pleads guilty to investment fraud." Below is Karen's mugshot, her perfect makeup and unpracticed smile replaced by stark reality. My phone buzzes with a text from Raphael. Aunt Karen took a plea deal. 5 years. Sloane's not handling it well. Are any of them? I type back. No, but maybe that's not a bad thing. I'm sipping coffee on the porch when a familiar car pulls up. Margaret steps out carrying a small box. I thought you might want these back, she says, setting it down. Inside are photos and documents, evidence of Karen's schemes that the prosecutors no longer need. How are the other investors? I ask. Recovering. The forensic accountants found most of the money. Karen wasn't as clever as she thought. Margaret sits beside me, though I suspect you knew that all along. I had my suspicions, but proving it took patience and courage. She smiles sadly. My late husband always said karma works on its own schedule. A moving truck appears at the end of the street, not taking things away this time, but bringing them back. My grandmother's antique furniture, stored safely all these years, finally returning home. Peyton arrives as the movers unload. Did you see the country club newsletter? They're doing damage control, trying to distance themselves from the whole scandal. The mighty Stouts, I muse. Not so mighty anymore. Speaking of which, Peyton nods toward an approaching figure. It's Bodhi, looking uncomfortable in casual clothes instead of his usual designer suits. Can we talk? He asks. Inside, the house is transforming. Gone are Karen's oppressive dark curtains and stuffy furniture arrangements. Light streams through clean windows, touching spaces that haven't seen sun in years. I'm selling the condo, Bodhi says, following me to the kitchen. Moving out of state, actually, taking a job offer in Seattle. Running away. Starting over. He traces a finger along the counter. Something I should have done years ago. And Sloane? Living with Raphael for now. She's struggling. Reality isn't what she thought it was. I pour him coffee out of habit, then catch myself. Some patterns die hard. I found this, he says, pulling out an old envelope. From our first date. You wrote down all your dreams on a napkin. I remember that night. How young we were, how full of possibilities. Before Karen's poison, before status and appearances became everything. You achieved them all, he continues. The design firm, the charity work, even that community art program you wanted to start, while I just existed in my mother's shadow. You chose that shadow, I remind him. I know. That's why I'm leaving. I need to find out who I am without it. The doorbell rings. It's Tamara with paint samples and renovation plans. Real changes for a fresh start. I should go, Bodhi says, standing. Belaya. Thank you. For what? For showing me the truth, even if I didn't want to see it. After he leaves, Peyton helps me sort through boxes, separating past from present. We find old Christmas cards, wedding photos, memories of a family that never really existed except in Karen's carefully crafted illusion. Raphael says Karen's already planning her comeback, Peyton mentions, even from jail. Some people never learn, and some people teach the best lessons. She holds up a magazine, the latest issue of Design Weekly, featuring my firm's newest project. Speaking of which, the article mentions the scandal, but focuses more on my work, my vision. No longer Bodie Stout's wife, but Leah, the designer who turned adversity into art. As evening approaches, Margaret and Tamara help me arrange my grandmother's furniture, pieces that tell my real family story. The house feels different now, lighter somehow, like it can breathe again. You know, Tamara says, adjusting a painting, revenge wasn't really your goal, was it? No, I admit. I just wanted the truth to come out. Everything else was Karma's doing. A car slows down outside, Karen's old friends, probably hoping to glimpse some drama. But all they see is a home being restored, a life being reclaimed. My phone buzzes one last time. A message from Raphael. Sloane asked about you today. Actually said she understands now. Maybe that's a start. I stand in my doorway, watching the sunset paint my porch in shades of possibility. The revenge I thought I wanted has transformed into something else. Liberation. Not just from the Stouts, but from the weight of pretense, from the exhaustion of being less than I am. The house creaks softly, settling into its new reality. And finally, so do I.